The lecture hall smelled like ozone and something vaguely floral that Maya Chen could never quite identify. 30 species, 40 students, 1 human. She sat in the back row as always, stylus hovering over her data pad while Professor Kenth droned on about quantum field manipulation. The Zeltharian instructor had 6 arms and 0 patience for questions he deemed stupid, which included approximately 90% of them. Maya watched Tarak, 3 rows down, his scaled green neck elongated in that way Revoxians did when they felt superior, which was constantly. He had turned halfway in his seat, making sure his voice carried to the back. I am simply saying, Professor, that perhaps we should question the wisdom of allowing species from Class 5 Deathworlds into advanced theoretical programs. Their neural structures are designed for survival, not sophistication. Several students made sounds of agreement. Maya did not look up from her notes. She had heard variations of this speech 17 times in 4 months. The novelty had worn off around occurrence number 3. Professor Kenth's middle left hand made a dismissive gesture. The admission board makes such determinations. Cadet Tarak, not second-year students who struggle with basic differential equations. Scattered laughter. Tarak's neck plates flushed purple, which meant embarrassment for his species. Maya allowed herself the smallest smile. Besides, the professor continued, floating toward the holoboard where complex formulas shimmered. If memory serves, Cadet Chen scored highest on last week's examination. Perhaps you should focus less on her planet's gravity and more on your tensor calculus. Maya felt 30 pairs of eyes swivel toward her. She kept her expression neutral, a skill she had mastered in her first week at the Interstellar Academy. Show nothing. Give them nothing. Lucky guess, Tarak muttered, but he faced forward. The girl beside Maya, a Delphine named Alara with bioluminescent markings along her temples, leaned over. Her voice rippled like water over stones. You should defend yourself more. He is insufferable. He is insecure. Maya replied quietly. Insecure people do not need responses. They need therapy. Lara's gills fluttered in what might have been amusement.
You're strange for a human.
I expected more aggression. Your species has such a reputation. We contain multitudes. Maya highlighted a particularly elegant equation on her screen. Besides, getting angry would just confirm what they already think. That you are primitive. That we are predictable. The lecture continued. Professor Kenth moved into applied theory, discussing how various species approached problem-solving based on their evolutionary backgrounds. The Haven thought in swarm patterns. The crystalline processed information through light refresh. Humans, he noted with barely concealed condescension, relied heavily on pattern recognition developed from tracking prey across ancient grasslands. Maya stopped taking notes. She had read this material already, along with the next 4 chapters. The Academy library was extensive, and insomnia gave her plenty of time to stay ahead. Way ahead. The door at the front of the lecture hall whispered open. Maya glanced up, expecting another late student, and felt every muscle in her body suddenly lock into a different configuration entirely. 4 figures in matte black armor. No Academy insignia, weapons drawn. The lead one had his rifle already raised. Her hindbrain processed this in the space between heartbeats. Wrong posture. Wrong entry. Wrong everything. Everyone down. The shout came from the second figure, voice distorted through a helmet. Students froze. Professor Kenth's 6 arms spread wide in confusion. What is the meaning? The lead figure fired. Not at the professor, at the ceiling. A chunk of the acoustic paneling exploded into fragments. Now students were screaming, diving under desks, scrambling for the exits. The 4 intruders spread out with military precision, blocking escape routes. Their weapons tracked the crowd, and Maya saw the charge indicators glowing hot. Live ammunition, not training rounds. Stay down. Nobody moves, but species panic differently. The Heaven student tried to phase shift. One of the attackers shot him before he finished the transition. His body collapsed, smoking, half in this dimension and half not. The smell of burned chitin filled the air. Real. This was real. Maya's heart rate had not increased. That was training. Her breathing had not changed. Also training. But her hand had already moved, fingers closing around the metal stylus on her desk. Tungsten core. Weighted, sharp point designed for precision touchscreens. She was still sitting. Everyone else was on the floor or running. She was exposed, visible, And apparently that meant target. The nearest attacker, the second one who had shouted, swung his rifle toward her. I said down, human. Maya stood up instead. The attacker's helmet tilted slightly, probably confused by the audacity. His finger moved toward the trigger. She threw the stylus. The movement was economical, compact, and very fast. Her whole body coiled and released like a spring. The stylus flew straight, spinning, a silver blur in the recycled air. It hit the attacker's throat, right where the armor had a flexible joint. The tip punched through. He made a choking sound and stumbled backward. 1 second. Maya was already moving down the row of desks, keeping low, using the chaos. The third attacker turned toward the commotion. She grabbed a datapad from an abandoned seat and threw it at his helmet. Not to hurt him, to obscure his vision. 2 seconds. While he flinched, she closed the distance, grabbed his rifle barrel and shoved it upward. He fired reflexively. The shot went into the ceiling. She twisted the weapon, using his grip against him, and brought her knee up hard into his midsection. The armor protected him from serious damage, but not from the kinetic shock. He folded. 3 seconds. The rifle came free. Maya spun, already finding the fourth attacker, who was bringing his weapon around. She fired twice, center mass. He went down hard. 4 seconds. The lead attacker, the one who had shot first, finally processed what was happening. His rifle was aimed, his finger was on the trigger, but Maya had already thrown the rifle she was holding like a spear. It hit him in the faceplate, shattering the visor. He stumbled, and Maya was there, grabbing the stun baton from his belt, activating it, and jabbing it into the gap in his armor at his ribs. He convulsed and dropped. 5 seconds. Maybe less. Silence crashed over the lecture hall like a physical force. Maya stood in the center of the room, surrounded by 4 unconscious or dying attackers, breathing normally. The stun baton hummed in her hand. Every single student was staring. Professor Kenth had gone completely still, all 6 arms frozen in different positions of shock. Alara spoke first, her voice barely a whisper. What just happened? Maya looked down at the attackers. At the blood pooling beneath the first one, at her stylus still embedded in his throat, she felt nothing. No satisfaction, no horror, just the cold clarity that had been drilled into her since she was 12 years old. Threat assessment and neutralization, she said quietly. Then she looked up at the professor. You should probably call security. Kenth finally moved, one hand reaching for his communicator. But he kept staring at Maya like she was something he had never encountered before. Like she was alien. Tarak had emerged from beneath a desk, his scales pale. How did you... You are just a student, right? Maya set the baton down carefully. Her hands were steady. Just a student. The security team arrived in under 2 minutes, which was actually impressive. 6 heavily armed guards in academy uniforms burst through both doors, weapons raised, ready for combat. They stopped short when they saw the scene. One guard, a tall Anthorian with compound eyes, approached cautiously. What happened here? 4 individuals entered without authorization and opened fire. Professor Kenth said, finally recovering his composure. Cadet Chen neutralized them. He said it like he was describing something impossible, which, at his perspective, it probably was. The guards secured the attackers. 2 were unconscious. 1 was dead. The 4th was dying, making wet breathing sounds through his damaged throat. A medic rushed to him, but Maya could see it was pointless. She had hit the carotid artery. She had meant. Another figure entered the lecture hall, and the energy in the room shifted again. Director Sola, the Academy's commanding officer, was a Talarian who looked vaguely feline and carried authority like a physical presence. Her gold eyes swept the scene, cataloging everything, before settling on Maya. Cadet Chen, come with me. It was not a request. Maya followed her out, aware of every whisper, every stunned face, every expression that had transformed from condescension to fear. She had spent 4 months being dismissed as primitive, limited, inferior. 5 seconds had changed that. Director Sola's office was all clean lines and military efficiency. She gestured to a chair. Maya sat. The director remained standing, studying her with an intensity that would have made most cadets squirm. You killed someone today, Sola said finally. Yes, ma'am, without hesitation. He was armed. He had already killed a student. Hesitation would have cost more lives. Indeed. Sola paced to the window overlooking the training grounds. Your application stated you had no military background, that you were a civilian from Earth, accepted on academic merit alone. Maya said nothing. She knew a trap when she heard one. That was a lie, was it not? No, ma'am. I have no official military service. Unofficial then. I took self-defense classes. Earth is dangerous in some areas. Sola turned, and her smile was sharp. Self-defense classes. Is that what we are calling it? She pulled up a holoscreen, and footage began to play. The attack, Maya moving through the chaos like water, like smoke, like something that had been designed specifically to kill. That is not self-defense, cadet. That is combat expertise at a special forces level. Maya watched herself, on the screen, measured, precise, lethal. I did what was necessary to protect my classmates, she said evenly. Oh, you did far more than that. Sola froze the image on Maya's face, emotionless and calculating. The attackers have been identified. They were members of the Sovereignty Movement, an extremist group opposed to human integration into interstellar society. They wanted to make a statement. They did, not the one they intended. Sola closed the screen. The question now is what statement you made, Cadet Chen. Because I am looking at you and I am wondering what Earth sent us. A student, or something else. Before Maya could answer, an alert chimed. Sola checked her communicator and her expression changed. Arden, come with me. Now, they moved through corridors filled with staring students. Whispers followed them like static. Maya kept her eyes forward, her pace matching the director's exactly. They reached the security center, where guards stood at attention. Inside, the 3 surviving attackers sat in separate interrogation rooms, visible through one-way glass. Medical teams had stabilized them. Now they waited. They are not talking, Sola said, but we ran biometric scans. She pulled up data files. All 4 are former military. All 4 received dishonorable discharges, and all 4 have connections to something interesting. She brought up a new image, a schematic. Maya's blood turned cold. This is a layout of the Academy's power grid, Sola continued. Specifically, the nodes that control our shield generators, the ones that protect us from orbital bombardment. She looked at Maya. 15 minutes before the attack on your classroom, someone tried to hack into this system. They failed, but they tried. Does that seem like a coincidence to you? No, ma'am. Neither does it to me. Sola's claws tapped against the desk, which means the attack on your classroom was not the main event. It was a diversion, or a test, Maya said quietly. Explain. Maya looked at the attackers through the glass, at their body language, at the way they sat resigned but not defeated. Like people who had already accomplished something. They knew they would not succeed, she said. Or people against an entire academy. That is suicide. But they came anyway. They killed one student and traumatized dozens more. They forced a response. She turned to Sola. They wanted to see what that response would be. You, me. Sola was quiet for a long moment. Then she pulled up another file. There have been 3 incidents this semester. Small things. The human students' quarters were vandalized. Another received death threats. Both reported to security. Both dismissed as pranks. I was not informed. You were not the target. But now I wonder if you were always the target. If someone has been escalating, testing defenses, watching responses. Sola met her eyes. Watching you, the implications settled like frost. Maya thought about the past 4 months. The hostility, the dismissals, Tarak's constant needling, all of it could have been natural prejudice, or it could have been cultivation. Pressure applied to see how she would react. There is something else, Sola said. She looked uncomfortable now, which was disturbing. The hack attempt. It came from inside the academy, a student account. Which student? We are still tracing it. But Cadet Chen, until we know who is behind this and why, I am afraid I must place you under protective custody. For your safety and for the investigation. You think I am the leak? Maya kept her voice neutral. I think you are connected to something much larger, and I need to understand what. Sola gestured to the guards. Escort Cadet Chen to the secure wing. Full monitoring. No visitors. Maya stood. She did not resist as the guards moved into position around her, but as they led her toward the door, she looked back at the director. When you find who hacked the system, she said, check their financials, and check where they were 16 months ago. Before I even applied to the academy. Sola's ears flattened against her skull. Why? Because this did not start today. And it is not about preventing human integration. Maya smiled, but there was no warmth in it. It is about proving we do not belong here. By making sure we do not survive. The door closed behind her. In the secure wing, alone in a cell with transparent walls and constant surveillance, Maya sat on the narrow bed and stared at her hands. They had washed the blood away, but she could still feel it. Could still feel the impact of tungsten punching through flesh. She had not wanted this. Had not wanted to reveal what she was, but they had forced her hand, and now everything was going to get much worse. Because the attack had accomplished exactly what it needed to. It had exposed her, made her visible, made her a threat, which meant the real move was yet to come. Maya closed her eyes and waited for the knife that was already falling. The surveillance feed showed 72 hours of nothing. Maya sat, meditated, exercised in the small space, and gave every appearance of patient cooperation. What the cameras could not see was her mind working through permutations, possibilities, connections. On hour 73, the door opened. Not Director Sola. Commander Vex, the Academy's tactical instructor, a Krellian built like a tank with eyes that saw through deception. He carried a data pack. You were right about the financials, he said without preamble. The student account belonged to Cadet Tarak. Substantial deposits from an offshore network traced back to sovereignty movement funding. Maya stood slowly. Where is he now? Disappeared. 12 hours after you were secured, along with 2 other students, Alara and a human named Jake. That stopped her. Jake and Alara are not conspirators. Then they are hostages. Vex set the datapad on the table between them. This arrived for you. Audio only. We have analyzed it. No tampering. He pressed play. Alara's voice came through, tight with fear. Maya, they say I have to tell you something. They want you to know this was never about stopping humans from joining the Academy. It was about proving you specifically should not be here. A pause. Breathing. They know what you are, what Earth sent, and they are going to broadcast it to the entire Galactic Council. The recording cut to static, then a different voice. Male, controlled. Cadet Chen, or should I say Agent Chen. Yes. We know you are not a student, you are a sleeper operative, sent by Earth's military intelligence to infiltrate the Academy and gather strategic information. The proof is in your performance. No civilian moves like you did. No civilian kills with such efficiency. Architected Part 2 narrative structure, with precise word count calibration and plot looshire. I need to continue Part 2 and build toward the climax and resolution. Currently I'm at about 2,480 words for Part 1, and need to ensure Part 2 is exactly 2,500 words. Let me continue the story with the conspiracy revelation, Maya's counter moves, and the emotional resolution. Key points for Part 2. Reveal that Maya was trained, but not as a spy. Show the real conspiracy and who's behind it. Include the hostage situation with Alara and Jake. Maya's strategic revenge using intelligence, not just violence, emotional depth and character moments. Strong resolution that vindicates humans. Final twist about Maya's true background. I need to count carefully to hit exactly 2,500 words for Part 2. Tarak's voice now smug even through the distortion. Tomorrow at noon we broadcast everything. Every classified file we pulled from your encrypted Earth communications. Every detail of your training. The Council will see humans for what they are. Infiltrators. Warmongers. Exactly the species that should never be trusted with advanced technology. The message ended. Vex watched her carefully. Is it true? Which part? Maya met his eyes. Am I trained? Yes. Did Earth send me to spy? No. She picked up the datapad, scrolling through the transcript. I volunteered for the Academy program because I wanted to learn, but Earth's government required every human applicant to undergo combat conditioning first. Not for espionage, for survival. Because they knew exactly how we would be received. With hostility, with violence. They were right. Maya set the device down. I am not a spy, Commander, but I am prepared. There is a difference. Can you prove it? I can do better. I can prove who the real spy is. Vex's expression shifted. Explain. Maya pulled up the Academy's network on the datapad, her fingers flying across the interface. Tarak had help from someone with high-level access. Someone who could falsify records, manipulate surveillance, and coordinate external contacts without triggering security protocols. Someone who knew about the human conditioning program and could twist that information. You are accusing a faculty member. I am accusing Professor Kenth. Vex went very still. That is an extremely serious allegation. And check his communications from the past year. Check his travel records. Check where he was 16 months ago when Earth's human candidates were being selected. Maya turned the screen toward him. I already did. He spent 3 weeks on Earth, officially attending an academic conference, unofficially meeting with sovereignty movement leadership. The commander looked at the data. His jaw tightened. Why? Because he believes humans are an existential threat to the existing power structure. And he is right. Maya smiled grimly. Not because we are warriors, because we are adaptable. We learn fast. We innovate. Given a century, humans will be competing with species that have had interstellar travel for millennia. That terrifies people like Kenth. So he orchestrated this entire situation. The attacks, the framing, the kidnapping. All designed to expose me as a spy and justify removing all humans from the academy. Maya closed the datapad, but he made a mistake. He believed his own propaganda about us being simple predators. He never considered I might actually be a student who pays attention. Vex stood. Where are they holding your classmates? I have a suspicion, but I need your help to confirm it. 20 minutes later, they stood in the Academy's Network Operations Center. Maya had convinced Vex to give her limited access, and she was running search algorithms through the facility's sensor logs. The attack disrupted normal operations, she explained, highlighting patterns on the display. But look at this. 3 subsystems stayed online that should have shut down automatically during the emergency. The East Wing laboratories. All 3 are registered to Professor Kenth's research group. He is a quantum theorist. Why would his lab stay active during a crisis? Because one of them is not really a lab. Maya zoomed in on power consumption data. This one is drawing 3 times the normal energy, enough to run interference shielding, enough to hide captives from standard security sweeps. Vex was already moving. I will assemble a team. No. Maya caught his arm. He expects that. A tactical squad means he releases the broadcast immediately and probably kills Ilara and Jake. We need a different approach. What do you suggest? Maya pulled up building schematics. I go in alone, through the maintenance tunnels, while your team makes very obvious preparations to storm the main entrance. Kenth watches the show, thinks he has time to negotiate, and I come in the back. That is extraordinarily risky. I am a Deathworlder. Remember? Risky is what we do. 10 minutes later, Maya was crawling through ventilation shafts that smelled like recycled air and old machinery. Her academy uniform was gone, replaced by tactical gear Vex had reluctantly provided. No weapons. She had requested none. I can do more damage without them, she had told him. The shaft opened into a maintenance corridor. Maya dropped silently, oriented herself, and moved toward the laboratory. Through the walls she could hear voices. Tarak, another student she did not recognize, and Kenth, his measured academic tone incongruous with the situation. The transmission is ready. As soon as Commander Vex makes his move, we broadcast. The Council will see the footage of Chen killing that attacker. They will see the classified training documentation I acquired, and they will understand that Earth sent a weapon, not a scholar. What about the others? Tarak asked. The Delphine and the other human. Collateral damage. Regrettable but necessary. Their deaths will be blamed on Chen. Another example of human violence. Maya felt something cold settle in her chest. Not anger. Calculation. She had given them every chance to be reasonable, to see her as human. They had chosen them. She reached the door. It was locked, but the panel was standard issue. Maya pulled a small tool from her belt, courtesy of Vex's tactical kit, and bypassed the security in 40 seconds. The door whispered open. The laboratory was larger than the schematics suggested. Clearly modified. Polyscreens covered the walls showing news feeds, council proceedings, and a timer counting down. 12 minutes until broadcast. In the center, Ilara and Jake sat bound to chairs, both conscious but obviously drugged. Kenth stood beside a control console. Tarak and 3 other students formed a perimeter, all armed with confiscated security weapons. Maya stepped inside. Every head turned. "Hello, Professor," she said conversationally. "Interesting research project you have got going here." Kenth's 6 arms spread in a gesture that might have been surprise or resignation. Cadet Chen, alone, how disappointing. I expected more tactical sophistication. Did you? Maya walked forward slowly, hands visible, empty. Or did you expect me to bring an entire security team so you could martyr yourself? Sorry to disappoint. You cannot stop the broadcast. I do not need to, you already stopped it yourself. That got his attention. Explain. Maya gestured to the screens. You built this entire conspiracy on a false premise, that I am a government agent, but I am not. I am exactly what my application says. A student who happens to have survival training that every human candidate received. Not for infiltration, for protection. She smiled. Which means your big revelation is that humans prepare their children to survive in a hostile universe. Congratulations, Professor. You just proved we belong here. Tarak moved forward, weapon raised. You killed someone. That is not survival. That is murder. Self-defense against armed attackers is not murder. It is threat response. Any court in the galaxy would agree. Maya shifted her focus to Kenth. But you knew that. You were counting on emotional response overriding legal precedent. You wanted fear, not facts. It does not matter. Kenth touched the console. The broadcast still shows human savagery. The council will react. With relief, probably. Maya took another step. You keep talking about us like we are monsters. But we stopped the attack. We saved lives. We did exactly what any trained citizen should do when faced with violence. The only people who would be horrified by that are people who prefer victims who cannot fight back. Silence stretched. Alara made a sound, trying to speak through the gag. Maya caught her eye, gave the tiniest nod. Here is what happens now, Maya continued. You release my classmates. You surrender to Commander Vex, who is currently listening to everything through the microphone I activated when I bypassed your door. And you admit that this entire operation was designed to prevent human integration through manufactured fear. Kenth laughed. It was not a pleasant sound. Or I take you apart, and it will not take 5 seconds. The temperature in the room dropped. Tarak's weapon shook slightly. He had seen what Maya could do. He knew it was not a bluff, but Kenth seemed unconcerned. You are one unarmed student facing 5 armed opponents. Your confidence is admirable but misplaced. Is it? Maya smiled. Did you actually study human tactics, Professor? Because we do not win through overwhelming force, we win through knowing exactly where to apply pressure. She moved, not toward the armed students, toward the console. 3 steps, fast and fluid. Tarak fired, but Maya was already dropping, sliding across the floor. The shot went high. She came up next to the console, hand slamming down on the emergency shutdown. Every system in the room died. Screens went dark. The lights cut to emergency backup. Most importantly, the broadcast cue vanished. No! Kenth lunged for the console, but Maya was faster. She grabbed his nearest arm, twisted, and used his momentum to throw him across the room. He crashed into a table, and suddenly 5 weapons were pointed at her. Bad tactical decision, one of the students said. Really? Maya raised her hands. Because from my perspective, you just lost your leverage, your broadcast, and your element of surprise. Commander Vex is entering the building now with a full security team. You can shoot me, but then you are just murderers with no justification, or you can surrender and maybe argue diminished responsibility. She locked eyes with Tarak. Your choice, but make it fast, because I am guessing you have about 90 seconds before this room is full of very angry soldiers. Tarak wavered, his weapon lowered an inch, 2 inches, the door exploded inward. Vex and 6 guards poured through, weapons trained, shouting commands. The student conspirators dropped their guns immediately, hands up. Only Kenth remained defiant, even as guards secured him. This changes nothing. He spat at Maya. You are still what you are. A predator playing at civilization. Maya walked over to him, looked down at his restrained form. You know what the real difference is between humans and most species. We know we are predators, we own it, we channel it. We do not pretend to be evolved beyond violence while planning massacres in secret. She crouched to his eye level. That is not civilization, Professor. That is hypocrisy wearing a lab coat. She stood and moved to Alara and Jake. A medic was already removing their restraints, checking their vitals. Alara grabbed Maya's hand the moment she was free. You came alone, the Delphine whispered. I was never alone. I had a plan, and if the plan failed, Maya squeezed her hand, then I improvised. Humans are good at that too. The aftermath took days to sort through. Tarak and the other students claimed they had been manipulated by Kenth, threatened and coerced into participation. Investigations suggested partial truth to that claim, though their prejudices had made them easy targets. Kenth himself said nothing during interrogation, but his files told the story. Years of correspondence with extremist groups, carefully cultivated networks designed to undermine human integration. The attack on the classroom had been his magnum opus, a spectacular demonstration that would vindicate his beliefs. Instead, it had proven the opposite. The Galactic Council convened an emergency session. Maya was called to testify. She stood before representatives of 100 species and told them the truth. That yes, humans were trained for survival. That yes, we came from a dangerous world and had learned dangerous skills, and that those skills made us exactly the kind of allies they needed, not the enemies they feared. We do not apologize for being what evolution made us, she concluded, but we do promise to use our capabilities in service of peace, cooperation, and mutual defense. Judge us by our actions, not your assumptions. The council deliberated for 6 hours. When they emerged, the decision was unanimous. Human integration would continue, expanded even with new protections and new opportunities. Director Sola found Maya afterward in the observation deck, watching ships come and go from the Academy's orbital platform. You should be celebrating, the Talarian said. Should I? Maya did not turn from the window. I killed someone, Director. That is not something to celebrate. You saved lives. That is precisely something to celebrate. Both things are true. Sola stood beside her, quiet for a moment. I spoke with Earth's ambassador. They confirmed your story. Every word. They also mentioned something else. That you were offered a full military commission, elite forces, guaranteed advancement, and you turned it down to come here instead. I wanted to learn, not fight. But you can do both. That is what makes you remarkable, Cadet Chen. You chose knowledge over violence, yet you remained capable of violence when necessary. That is not primitive. That is wisdom. Maya finally looked at her. What happens now? Now, you finish your education. You become whatever you were meant to become, but you do it with everyone finally understanding that humans are not a threat to civilization. Sola smiled, showing teeth. You are a reminder that civilization sometimes needs defending, and that there is no shame in being good at defense. 2 weeks later, Maya sat in the back row of Professor Kenth's replacement's first lecture. The new instructor was a human from Earth, a quantum physicist named Dr. Sarah Kim, who began her first class with a joke about Schrodinger's cat that got groans from 3 different species. Ilara sat beside Maya, recovered and cleared for classes. Are we going to discuss the irony that they replaced a professor who hated humans with a human professor? No, Maya said, smiling. We are going to take excellent notes and ace the midterm. You are genuinely strange. I contain multitudes. Later in the cafeteria, Tarak approached their table. He looked smaller somehow, diminished. His neck plates were neutral gray. I wanted to apologize, he said quietly. I was wrong about humans. About you. I let prejudice make me into someone I am ashamed of. Maya studied him for a long moment, saw genuine remorse, saw a person who had made terrible choices and was trying to be better. Apology noted, she said finally. But you do not get forgiveness from me, Tarak. You get a chance to prove you have learned something. Use it well. He nodded and left. Ilara poked at her food, which looked disturbingly like noodles but moved independently. Do you think things will actually change? I think we showed them something important, Maya replied. That being dangerous and being trustworthy are not mutually exclusive. That civilization is not about becoming harmless. It is about choosing not to cause harm unless absolutely necessary. Very philosophical for someone who killed a man with office supplies. Maya laughed. Actually laughed. Fair point. That night, alone in her quarters, Maya pulled up a secure communication channel to Earth. Her mother's face appeared on the screen, older than Maya remembered but smiling. Saw you made quite an impression, her mother said. Did not mean to. Wanted to stay under the radar. Sweetie, you are human. We do not do subtle very well. Her mother's expression softened. But I am proud of you. We all are. You showed them exactly what we can be. What's that? Human. Complicated. capable of terrible things and beautiful things, often in the same 5 seconds. Maya smiled. Thanks, Mom. Finish your degree, come home when you are ready. But Maya, yeah? Next time someone attacks your class, maybe just hit the panic button like a normal student. I will take it under advisement. The call ended. Maya looked out at the stars, at the vast sprawl of the galaxy that humanity was only beginning to explore. Somewhere out there were species who would never accept them. People like Kenth, who would fight human integration with everything they had. But there were also people like Alara, like Commander Vex, like Director Sola. People willing to judge humans by actions, not stereotypes. Maya picked up a new stylus from her desk, identical to the one she had thrown. She spun it between her fingers, muscle memory making the movement graceful. Just a pen. Just an ordinary writing implement, until it needed to be something more. She smiled and got back to her homework. 5,000 words on quantum entanglement due tomorrow. No problem. After all, humans were good at tackling impossible challenges. It was what they did best.